Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Kev Play. This is Kevin, and we are on episode 4 of Chivalry Part 4 of our playthrough, and this is going to be our special Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 spoiler discussion. I have two guests with us today. One is a returning guest who's been on every discussion that we've had so far. That's Robert McClelland. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, Kev.
How's it going? And
Pretty good,
then
man. Happy to be back.
I'm glad to have you back. You're definitely you're a fan favorite.
Oh, thanks.
I'm your fan pretty much. Like nobody watches,
Oh,
but
excellent.
but and then we also have our second guest, our first timer, Ralph, my friend Ralph.
Hey, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good,
So
good. Are
uh,
we live?
we are live. We're doing it live. Fuck it. Um.
Oh, it's live. I can see it.
So yeah, so for the last 2 months, we have all three of us have been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. First big game that I've been playing of this year.
Maybe 2 months. It was a month and a half.
Month and a half, yeah, I would say. It felt like 2 months.
Still a long time
It,
for
it
a game, I think.
right. It came out
Is it?
February 4th, right? I believe.
Yeah.
So
No, 14th.
no, Valentine's Day. I think it was like the 4th. I think.
What was the 4th? And I guess it is 2 months.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess first game came out 2018. So it's been quite a while, but they definitely cooked with this game, Warhorse Studios, and they're out of the UK, I believe. Um, and they made a big profit. Like it sold really
They're
well.
out of Bohemia.
Oh, is it really?
They're named Sheffields. They're Czechs. Yeah,
Wow.
Czech.
So it's like it's like authentic to the max then,
Yeah,
and it shows. Um,
absolutely.
I've seen pictures before of like the castles that they have,
Okay.
and like the landscape and everything, and it really just feels like right out of the game, or vice versa, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's cool. If you like Google Earths or Google Maps, the various cities and locations in both games,
Hmm.
it looks just like it in satellite view. You're correct, by the way. It is February 4th, so I guess it has been the past 2 months.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's usually like open world games take me maybe a month to complete.
Yeah.
With this, it's like I'm not even close. Like we all beat the main game, but like I'm not even close to like seeing all the content. I feel like there's so like it's just a living, breathing world. Um,
Yeah, I was the last to beat it last night.
right. We were all off by like a week or two between each other. I feel or a week or
Yeah,
so.
Robert
Yeah,
McClelland was the first.
yeah. You were the first.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
like was trying to gobble up as many side quests as I could until it really wasn't any more available that I could find. I believe there's some like random encounters, like if you fast travel, that will actually initiate some side quests, which I discovered some, but I have no idea if I've discovered them all. But I did get the trophy for like getting 80% of the quests done or something like that. Um, but yeah, I just want to get your overall thoughts. Like, the game starts you off in Trotsky. Honestly, Trotsky could have been its own game, I feel. What do you guys think? I almost feel
Yeah,
like
and
because I almost feel like
I
Kudenberg could have
regret
been the
never
third
going
game for
back to
me.
the Trotsky region.
What's that?
I regret never going back to the Trotsky region. It was definitely a lot of fun. It would have been cool to go back there when I was full powered
I actually did
and
go
finish
back.
up any loose ends.
I actually did go back at one point to do some archery contests because I was actually like
Uh,
running out of money. Um,
that's
but
funny.
and I was very scared
Well,
to
there
do
was good
so.
archery though, I would just argue even better archery rather in the new region.
I couldn't find.
In
I knew there
Williamsburg.
was some like because the archery I was finding like at the
Oh,
Devil's
wow.
Den, it was more about like shooting targets that are like those little like
Yeah,
bird targets or whatever.
yeah, that was in Kuenberg, but then in Sigismund's camp in the back, there's a pretty decent, just regular archery range.
Ah,
So that's the main archery range I used. I hardly used So
I
I
always
did
felt
watch
skeevy.
archery.
I always felt skeevy walking around Sigismund's camp. So like
Yeah.
I definitely explored it well, but like I knew about like because they have like that battle arena that no one's allowed to fight in, right? Because people are
Yeah.
starting to get hurt or something.
Well,
So
Sigismund's kind of the good guy though.
in a way, I mean, like for him to
He
like
wants to he,
for him to cancel
he
that
wants to bring
battle
peace and
arena,
order.
it's almost like he cares more about their safety than any of the other
No, I think he
regions.
cares more about Bohemia. He wants to cancel. He wants to cancel. He wants to secure peace,
Right.
prosperity,
Hmm.
security for the region. Where Wenceslas is just the people want him to use and abuse him because he's a weak leader. So the
Right.
nobles can take advantage of him and grow more powerful themselves. So instead of having a strong kingdom, you basically have France throughout most of the Middle Ages, where it's a really weak central king
Hmm.
and incredibly powerful dukes, which is not good for a country.
That's interesting.
There's
Yeah.
also idealistic.
I'm kind of Team Sigismund.
There's also like an idealistic way to think about it too, because yeah, I mean, Chris, that's true. Like historically,
Yeah.
Wenceslas was like a bad king, but the game puts you,
Ooh, that's a base hit.
yeah, but you put you're put in the eyes of like a patriot. You're playing like a patriot's tale.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I get Henry's perspective.
And
I mean,
I get
obviously,
wrapped up
looking
in
at
it.
Henry's
Like I
perspective,
almost forget
he's
your like because your perspective that you brought, Ralph, is very interesting. Like I think about it. It's in the back of my mind about how like we are playing it from the Patriots perspective. But you're right that
yeah.
there are definitely many factors to consider. Like that
I
it's
mean,
not black and white.
the whole point of the game, or the whole theme of the game, is just there's no real right or wrong, no good or evil. It's just humanity's humanity, man.
Where
Right.
shit.
Shit happens. War, yeah, exactly. War is shit.
That's
Generally speaking, life in society is just a fucking failed concept, and we should all live in the woods and not talk to anybody.
That's why,
That's
like,
why the
when they
huntsman's
have
good,
like the
right?
reputation meter, I don't really take it too seriously when my reputation goes down or up, because I'm just
Yeah.
choosing what I think is right. I don't like it's almost like you'll get too hung up on that mechanic if you were to try to like stay you're reputationally great throughout the whole game or something like it would be like a deterrent almost to but it makes you think more than anything I feel.
I didn't really focus on my reputation at all, but it
Yeah,
just
me
so
neither.
happened by my play style, like I tried to be an honorable nobleman,
Right, like I would
so I
try
had my reputation everywhere.
but like I wouldn't feel like I failed if my reputation like if I failed the reputation check or whatever because I would just be like well that's what I would have done in that situation. And it's funny because like I was playing it the way I would play almost as if I time traveled into this time period how I would choose to go about things. Whereas I remember Robert, you were saying you were going about it, the way society would dictate. How like in the very beginning of the game when Hans wouldn't carry the sacks at the tavern in order to pay his bar debt,
Right.
because he's a nobleman, and it's just not right for someone to be doing like dirty work like that. Uh, I just remember being completely on Henry's side, but I just find it like I love that you played the game how the culture was,
Yeah.
respecting it.
Yeah. It's very to me. It's very rewarding to historically immerse myself. I mean, obviously, play the game however you want to. I don't think there's a right and wrong way of playing it,
Right.
and I think that's the way the game's designed.
Hmm.
Um, I just get so much joy from doing that. And that's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people want to be, and like Henry can be anything you want him to be. If you want him to be idealistic and intelligent and like, you know, um, you know, being like a scholar and like, he knows a lot of stuff, or you can just be like knowing your place, a good swordsman, a good servant, like your stage, a good squire. You can just be that.
Right.
Um, you could be a thief, a serial killer. You could be anything you want.
Hmm.
It's truly one of those games, and it's open world in almost in every one of the sense. Um, you know, because like games like Skyrim and Elder Scrolls, they are open world games, but and it's like that same kind of mechanic of learning by doing. You
Yeah.
know, like if you want to be a good thief, you lockpick a lot. And if you
Right.
want to be a good horseman, you ride a lot. You
Mm-hmm.
want to be a scholar, buy a bunch of books, read a bunch of books. Shit, steal the books, read them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to do. But there's something that those games that there's something about it that they don't do or don't have that Kingdom Come Deliverance does have. And a big part of that is storytelling and bringing. It's like the world is alive, like you said.
Right.
The NPCs have literal thoughts and feelings. I mean, yes, we all know it's not real. And yes, they are NPCs, but like the game continuously throws me back into it. Like there's nothing, you know what I mean? Like when you play Skyrim, you know right away. There's no immersion in that game, and I love Skyrim for what it was
Right.
and for its time. But like you shoot an arrow at a guard, and then you go hide, and he's like, "Huh, must have been the wind." And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? And it's funny, and it's like whatever. But you do that in Kingdom Come, and yes, there's definitely goofiness and glitches and stuff.
Right. It's to be
But like
expected.
it's kind of difficult to outsmart some of these guards. Like I've tried to do it. And I'm sure there's people that have done it better than me or whatever. But they actually like really look for things, and they're very like uh, you know they acutely look for things and stuff, and like things that are out of place. Like there was something I tried doing where I saved it, and I wanted to try to like jump into an area I wasn't supposed to be in. And I tried dressing up like one of the guards that I knocked out. And the second I go in there, the guard's like, "Hey, come on, like, hey, those, yeah, like, hey, you like those clothes don't belong to you." I'm like, "Wait, what? In what world would a game know that?"
Yeah. Any other game would have just rewarded you for having switched with the clothes. Whereas
Yeah,
this game is just like, hey, what the fuck you think you're doing? You know?
One of your fans is commenting on the box.
I know. Solar Records.
I don't know.
They're not a fan.
I don't know who
This is
it
a
was.
first-time viewer. But they're saying who's talking. It's my friend Ralph and Robert is talking at the moment. But yeah, but the skill check. I mean, not the skill checks. Whenever like the guards would stop you, there is a comedy to it where if you had like like depending on what your skill checks are, if you in order to get out of it, like Henry will like make up like the most like bullshit excuse, and then like the guard will
Yeah,
just be like, "All right, next time I'll let you go this time." Which that's what I like about the game though, is it has a sense of humor as much as it is like almost like an immersive sim in a way. Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a medieval simulator. I'll give you that.
hmm
I would also say to comment what you just mentioned about like Henry coming up with like bullshit excuses. Like for instance, I tried doing something where I tried picking a lock, and a guard caught me.
Right.
And I said something like, "Hey, look." Well, first I surrendered to him, and he's just like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "Oh, well, I'm a blacksmith, and I saw that the lock looked like it was stiff, and I
Yep.
had to oil it or something like that." And
Oh, wow.
the guy's like, "You're joking," and I'm like, "No," like, and he's like, "All right, well, look, just don't do it again." And
hmm
like at first glance, you're like, "Okay, there's no way that a real guard would fall for that," but it's like, and and Chris, maybe you can vouch for this, but like when you're doing when you're on the job, right? Like for instance, when I was in the military, when I had to deal with more BS than I wanted to, sometimes you just let things go. Like you're just like, I don't want
Right.
to do the paperwork for this. Like, is it
Pick your
really
battles.
worth it? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
can see that being.
I tried to be a nobleman the entire time. One of the first things I did, I maxed out speechcraft, and I got a set of really high charisma clothing, and I
Mm.
just went with a noble excuse for everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't commit many crimes. I didn't pick any locks. Well, an excessive amount,
Well,
when
mind you, this
necessary.
is my second playthrough, so I'm doing things a little differently.
Oh, you're
but,
you're
my
playing a
first
second time
playthrough-
already?
Yeah, did I mention that to you guys?
I think you did,
Yeah,
but
you did.
I didn't know that you were still like I respect that you're going through with it.
I would recommend leveling up your lockpicking though, because if you go into in the very end game in Van Oltitz, whatever the German guys camp, if you pick a lock after you kill him of a chest, you get a cool little Easter egg.
That's neat. Yeah.
for you.
I'm
Right.
definitely seeing, I know we haven't really fully discussed the entire game, our first playthrough, but at least from what I can see in my second playthrough, it's definitely worth it to try to be as well-rounded as you possibly can, just simply because the world has so much to offer you,
Right.
and you can do, it's not so much about being
Go
OP.
out, go out, go out.
Hmm?
Oh, he's watching baseball as we play.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm watching the Red Sox game, and
Very good, man, no worries.
Mm.
the guy I'm playing has their pitcher,
Hmm.
so I need the Texans to do amazing. And I also have Texan, not the one who just got a home run, but
Oh, well, there you go.
Right. So, but
yeah.
yeah. So the Trotsky region was like it gave you a lot of options as to what you wanted to do in terms of what you wanted to like, perfect your craft with. I feel that was a great starting region. I feel because as soon as I saw that archery range, I was literally just getting my marksmanship up, and it would get my warfare up, my ability, my agility, um, and then of course, once you find that like that can that who's a tomcat that you could train with your
Tomcat, yeah.
sword. There's that, but yeah, like I chose because in the beginning of the game, you choose between whether you want to be on the miller's, like work for the miller or work for the blacksmith. I chose the blacksmith. So,
As did I. I actually never met the Miller.
oh really?
Yeah, I thought they're dishonest people in general. I mean, we met the Miller's niece once, and she was a tramp. And
Right.
why would I reassociate with those people?
I went because after the first game, I wanted to. I was like, I'm so done with the Millers and the thievery. Like, I felt like the first game. As I love the first game, but I felt like a lot of the game was pushing me towards a lot of thievery a lot of the time.
Did you commit crime in the first game?
Um, Sometimes. I mean, I was kind of fooling around when I first got the game because I didn't really understand it at first in terms of
Yeah.
like what the nature of the game was. But
Well, this was one of your first, like, this kind of RPG. Like, a real
I think so.
open
Yeah.
world sandbox RPG, right?
Pretty much where like every choice is consequential. Yeah.
What? Yeah, I'm on a podcast. I gotta be loud. A celebrity.
It's a word from our sponsor.
Yeah.
Um, no, but yeah. My first playthrough, I already probably told you guys this, but I do just the warrior stuff. Like I really didn't like doing any of the thievery. I never stole anything. I tried to be noble in any, but sometimes nobles have to be dishonest in some ways. Like if it's for the good of the mission, or like in war, like sometimes honor doesn't mean anything. You just gotta fight and defend yourself. Um, so I think I took more of the soldier's approach.
Hmm.
Like later on, I know we're covering spoilers, but when you're set against the Dry Devil and about torching the town
Yeah.
to get the Burgov's men out in the open, in my heart, I knew
It's
the
too
right
good.
answer was to try to talk him down, to try to like tell him like, hey, maybe there's another way we can do this and stuff. But my soldier brain was telling me, well, even if I wasn't for this, I don't feel like in real life I would like stop everything. Like in the middle of a mission, it's very like in real life when you're doing stuff like that, there's no way you can just like stop everything that's happening. Like unless you're an officer or you're a commander or something.
Hmm.
And
Are you
just
talking
gotta go-
about Samine?
Oh, that too. Yeah, actually,
Oh,
I had
okay.
the same approach for Samine, but the villages you had to torch to get Burgov's men in the open.
Oh, Margoff or whatever. So in the late
Yeah.
game.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean both those. You just kind of gotta do what you gotta do. It's
Yeah.
First of all,
Actually,
in Samine, as far as you know, these people slaughtered your friends and family.
Right.
So when you're walking into Samine, you have no idea that anybody here is innocent. They're all evil to you.
Mm.
And then Margoff, you're a little bit of you're doing what you gotta do, right? There's no angels in war, and you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. The old Che Guevara.
The old
argument.
adage.
Yeah, but Kev, I I suspect you probably talked the Dry Devil down. I'm assuming.
Did I talk to what? The Dry Devil?
Like, did you tried to like readjust the plan with him about like torching the town?
Yes, I did. And then we had, and that's where we had like the duel with him, right? I don't know if you.
Right. That's what would have happened.
That's
Yeah, I
what
looked
yeah,
up
that's
what
what
happened.
happened with me. Is I basically had to like put him in his place, and I ended up
Yeah.
beating I ended up like beating him there. And you
Yeah.
don't kill him or anything, but it's just
Right.
and you kind of just humiliate him a bit. Yeah, I just
Noble
was.
Records is interacting with us. I don't know if we want to kind of try to bring them in. I don't know if they're a Kingdom Come fan.
No, no,
Did you
it's
put
fine.
Kingdom Come into the description?
I did not yet. I'm gonna do it in post.
Okay. 'Cause I was saying they're talking in the chat. I don't know if this is supposed to be just the three of us or if we're including
It's just
chatters.
us three because I don't know who those people are, and I suspect we know who they are. I don't even know who, but the chat's not going to even really because I'm doing this on PS5 and not PS4. The chat's not even going to be existent after this anyway, unfortunately. But just to move it along, I guess. What did you guys think of Godwin as a playable character? Which, by the way,
Um,
I didn't realize that he was Godwin until a little because I didn't realize because I remember Godwin the character in the first game, but when they first introduced him and he was like Radzig and Lord Hanish kind of like appoint him to kind of like go find Henry and Hans. I was just like, is this a new character? Like I was a little confused because you know how like the
it's
NPCs
easy
can
at
be a
first.
little repetitive, like not repetitive in design sometimes. I just thought, oh, this is just like another guy. I didn't think, oh, this is specifically someone else. But then I caught on pretty quick that it was him. Um, Robert, you know the game the first game a lot more intimately than I do because I only played it last fall. And I'm sure you've played it more than once. But yeah, Godwin when for me when they first introduced Godwin and you're playing as him, um, I was a little concerned at first because I was like, okay, is this going to be like a Last of Us Part Two thing where I'm playing as him for half the game and I have to like get all my stats up from scratch, and then they're going to keep flip flopping or whatever. But I'd say like they were pretty. He was handled pretty well in terms of like he's here just to serve the story, kind of push the plot along, but give kind of more context to as who he is and what he's about and stuff like that. What do you guys think?
Um, I definitely, and I think Ralph would agree with me
Mm-hmm.
when I say this, but I I didn't recognize him at first, only because you don't ever see Godwin in armor in the first game, right? So like if you know that he was a soldier or that he fought in a war, and you hear some of the stories with him and stuff, but you've never seen him in action like that. So at first it's like and also there was some modeling redesigning, like the graphics are a little sharper.
Yeah,
There's
that's
certain
right.
facial features that are a little different. And I think the voice actor changed. Like he had a Scottish accent in this second game versus the first one. Um, so I don't know if that's just they did a different voice actor or just they changed something about him. So
Could have
it
fooled
wasn't
me.
as recognizable at first.
Right.
But once I realized like I'm like okay wow and also they the game was taking a different approach. I mean because we're thinking we're beginning the story with Henry, and it's like, oh wow, we're starting in the eyes of Godwin, and it's like, okay, and you're sort of you're sort of going along with it. I didn't feel worried because I just trusted the storytelling.
Oh yeah, like
Um,
I wasn't worried about the story or what. I was just more concerned of like my just like the game,
your
just like
experience,
the game experience more than just this. You know what I mean? Like, but I
yeah.
did trust. It was just I did trust in where it was taking us and that it was for the better good. But I was just like, okay, like because it brings you to such a before he's introduced, you're brought to such a crazy point in the game where
Right.
there's a big cliffhanger as to what's happening between Henry and Hans. That I was just like, okay, I just hope this, I just hope it didn't like disrupt the pacing or anything, but it didn't at all. Like it, thankfully. So
So the game's written like a movie, you
it's like
know.
a great novel for me.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Because I mean, like it starts you up in practically almost the end of the story, and that's a very classic way to tell a story. You know,
Hmm.
sometimes like oh hey, and there's me. Like how did I end up here? Well, thought you never ask. And then it goes on for there, and the whole time you're asking yourself questions like okay wait where's Henry? Like okay why is Godwin here? Like
Right.
there's a siege. Okay, and also the first game, you're on the other side of the siege. You're attacking, and so in this game you're defending.
Right.
It's two completely
I
different
love that.
sides of that spectrum. And I gotta say, in any medieval game I've ever played, being being on the defensive side of a siege, like just because a siege is just a war of attrition. If they say attacking a castle, the defenders have the edge, but when it comes to just waiting it out, I mean, like that's there's the whole castle surrounded and like it's just about starving them out.
Right.
Um,
And the game,
and you're literally
they did such a great
experiencing
job
that.
with that, by the way. Like going
It's
like more
yeah,
than one day, like going up to like day 25, like
it was a month.
it was like
Yeah,
a month of it, yeah.
but that's like how I mean sieges historically have lasted even longer sometimes, and it's insane
Hmm.
uh, that a game that they just took their time with all of that just on a historical spectrum.
And they only had 30 days worth of food.
Right, that's true.
They should have had a lot more potatoes. Well, I guess it is before potatoes were discovered.
Right.
Uh, Robert, do you feel that this is your favorite time period to RP in?
I would say so.
Yeah,
Um,
I really enjoy it as well. I like the low fantasy aspect of it.
yes.
I mean, it's almost no fantasy because I hardly engage with the alchemy system. I did do a few poisons, but I feel like that's a little more realistic than sucking down a good old marigold to heal yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the potion aspect.
Oh, a brew just got a hit.
Good for you. I think the alchemy is great. Even lightly dabbling in it is just also mechanically just helpful. But
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot more. Alchemy was more fun in the first game, even though it was like the same system. I just enjoyed it more for
I
some
felt like a
reason.
lot of the mechanics were a lot more streamlined this time around compared to
they
the.
were absolutely.
Mhm. Yet they
Um,
didn't. Yet they didn't. They didn't like backpedal in terms of what they wanted, how they wanted it to be. You know what I mean? Like they didn't change the way the combat is or anything. Like they stuck to their guns, which I respect a lot. That to like the mainstream player, they probably would rather play a game more similar to like Shiv or something in terms of its combat. But this is not what this. That's not what the game is. It's about you have to learn how to swing a sword and how to wield a weapon and but like the way it's done, like how you have to go left, right, up, like uh I'm just glad that they stuck to that, even though a lot of like I know there were some people like casual, like a casual audience would kind of criticize it, but they didn't like budge. That's what I respect about it. But
Yeah, I think this game's combat was significantly easier than the first game.
I
To the
agree.
point that
Yeah.
by the
same.
end game, I was just essentially one-shotting enemies. I hardly ever had to do combos, where in the first game I was very combo reliant.
The first
I
game
do
I was
though
like so
enjoy its
much more
combat
scared to
system.
die
I'm
because
gonna
I felt
acknowledge
like I was so
that.
much more prone to die in the first game compared to this one. I wasn't dying as much.
Yeah, I
I
couldn't say I really died in this game at all. I think I died once, and it was more of I was playing as Godwin, and I got caught not being the Cardinal, so I just picked the wrong option. I never died in combat or anything.
Huh.
I think I would have to. I mean, listen, I played 100 hours of the game. It's very possible I did, and I just memory hold it.
Hmm.
But the
I
first
would
game, yeah, I
argue.
definitely felt like it was heavier.
I would argue that. So yes, while I definitely agree, I think that the combat is easier in this game, but I would also argue for the story's sake that it's
Well,
sort
it
of
should be, yeah. I mean, at this
No.
point, by the end of the game, you're the greatest warrior Bohemia has ever known.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, and that's where I think like again it served both purposes because I would agree that like with Kev that your casual gamer won't get as turned off by the comic versus like the first one is like I remember like when you first dived into the first game and like I had to kind of really tell you like I was like look Kev you gotta really like
I
grind like it's not
I
yeah
showed you my equipment and my armor, like my armor set and
yeah
everything, and I literally was just in peasant clothes.
yeah no I was like Kev you have no armor like you just have a gambeson you're like yeah what's wrong with that I'm like that's why you're dying
Yeah. And I didn't even have a shield. Like I had to go back into town buy a shield, and like I went about that completely wrong.
Yeah, and that's cool, but that's like that's the learning curve, and like when you and I'll admit when I first played the game, um, the combat, what I did was I enhanced my strength so high that I was able to do like headshots really well, and
Hmm.
that would honestly like end a lot of the fights. I did the perfect blocks, which really saved my ass, but like I really wasn't doing much combos. I was just strong arm everyone. Like I get into clenches, I'd win clenches,
Right.
and like that's what I
Interesting.
but that's but that's like bare bones of like how you can win in that game. And like
Oh,
once
first.
I did some replays, I played the game 3 times I think, and I started slowly like understanding what the combat actually entails, like
Hmm.
how in depth it is, and Ralph mentioned, you are combo reliant because that's how you win. You
Yeah,
know?
the first game I was sword and board, and I was very combo heavy. Second game, I was essentially just a brute with a longsword.
Yeah. But like so the second game, you don't have to do the combos. You can honestly just do master strikes the entire time and just kite enemies, and that's
I didn't
fine.
do master strikes.
Yeah,
I just by the end of the game, I was just swinging willy nil.
yeah, yeah. And I guess
I was Caffrey out of the shower, ripping it all around.
but my point is that what I like what the devs did was making the combat quote unquote easier in this second game served two purposes. One, it allows the barrier of entry for your casual gamer isn't as high as the first one, which is
Hmm.
fine because that brings in people. And honestly, I want the game to succeed. So if it doesn't take away from the experience and just still makes the game good in a different way, let them have it. But what it also does is it serves the purpose of like the story, because like because like I said, I remember when I first started the second game, I was like, all right, so he's a bastard who's a sort of noble. He's almost legitimized, and he's been enough. He could be knighted by now. Like he has experience.
Hmm.
Where do we go from here? Like how can you possibly start over to make the grind part of the game?
Right.
And the game does that right away, where it literally, he gets hurt and he has to reevaluate his skills because he gets hurt so badly that he almost dies,
And I like
and it's almost
beforehand,
like yeah,
you're having a conversation with like your little camp, and you're basically like you're telling stories of like of yourself, and
right, yes,
you can choose whatever you want in order to like buff your skills up. Like oh like like oh yeah, me and Henry we were in this bar fight together or something, and Henry what happened, and it was like oh yeah I beat all three of those guys that time or something, and then it would give you like a strength boost or whatever. It was basically like your way of like establishing your character before they strip it away. I feel before they strip
yes,
like everything away. Whereas which I believe when they strip it all away, they still leave like maybe like a point or so for whatever you chose uh in that prior conversation.
yeah. No, it's a very ingenious setup,
Hmm.
and like the game, like again when I first played the second game, everything's all like nice and happy and like it's all positive and stuff, and I'm just sitting here like okay, I guess we're just gonna go through the motions and just maybe I'll run into some more high level in conflicts like as a noble, or I'll be recognized as a knight in this one, and then it's like no, like you get thrown right back into the dirt and you virtually almost have to start over. Except you're not like inexperienced, and that's where they have to keep that theme going, because in the first game you are just a peasant who's never left home and you have to learn everything everything. But in the second one, it's like you have some experience. You're almost like rehabilitating yourself.
Right.
So it's very unique, and not a lot of games can pull that off.
Did you guys detect a little bit of Red Dead Redemption 2 influence in this game compared to the first? The way like you can greet people or retort to NPCs. Have we all played?
Yeah, that's in there. I didn't attribute it totally to Red Dead. Going back really quickly to what Robert just said
Yeah, sure.
about being able to basically starting over, I would say by the second half of the game, once you get to the Kutenberg region, at this point everyone knows you're Radzik's son, and you've established yourself again as a partial noble, essentially.
Mm.
So I didn't feel too much like I was starting over from the bottom, except for the very beginning of the game, where, you know, we got shit shoveled upon us from the top of the ramparts.
Yeah, quite literally. Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, Red Dead influences, I didn't feel they were that strong. I did feel, though, one of the final scenes where you fight the Eric guy in the onesie,
Yeah.
that he was influenced by the final battle in Ghost of Tsushima.
True. I could see that too.
I saw that there. I'm sure when did Red Dead come out? 2018. So
Same year as the first game of Kingdom Come.
Yeah. There's been other games I've played, I've had the opportunity to react to NPCs.
Because the reason I bring it up too is that Red Dead 2 I feel was a little immersive in its way, but it was kind of universal to a lot of players. Where even though like say you go into like a cabin and you're sifting through stuff, you're like slowly grabbing things and stuff like that. That felt very like immersive sim in a way, but that game is, you know, made by Rockstar. They made it in a way that was very appealing to, like, you know, a mass audience, and it sold really well because of that. I wonder if Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and the way they refined a lot of their mechanics, and even like I said, just like, you know, the notion that you were able to greet people and stuff, if they kind of took notes and been like, okay, we can be that immersive sim open world RPG, but we can make it a little bit more, not to say that we're dumbing it down, but that we're making it a little more streamlined.
What mechanics do you think were refined because of Red Dead?
Not necessarily just not like side by side comparison to Red Dead. I just mean like the concept of taking what was might have been a little bit arduous in the first game and just make it a little bit more, I guess, less of a grind, I guess, in the second. I'm trying to think of an example.
Well, I would
Like
say
I know alchemy,
to an extent.
like to me, alchemy felt a lot more. I was still doing the same things I was doing in the first game, but I felt like it was less janky.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And do you think Red Dead influenced that, and it was just a natural progression?
No, because I think part of it is just a natural progression because it's their sequel. They already have the base physics and engine and everything all like laid out as a baseline. But I don't know. I just wonder. I'm trying to think of, because for me, like, I just felt like a lot of things were just a lot more easygoing. Not that they were easy, but they were easygoing in terms of I never felt like I was frustrated with whatever I was trying to do.
Yeah, the game definitely felt a lot less unnecessary at times. Like, certain things were a little unnecessary in the first game. This game felt a little bit more streamlined and stuff like that. You could say that Red Dead influenced it, and I'm sure it did to an extent.
I was waiting for like a monastery moment where you have to be in the monastery, and you know.
I love the monastery. That was one of my favorite parts
from the first game. Yeah, I feel like
I didn't find that bothersome at all.
not that I felt it bothersome, me specifically, but I could see how people could be like it could be like a turnoff for some people, where it's like, oh, I just want to go back to the open world, but I'm stuck, you know, doing prayers and adhering to a schedule. And it was for a long time, and there was a lot of stuff that you had to get done or try to get done while you're on that schedule. Whereas there were
Well,
moments
that's the
in
beauty of
there were
the
moments in this second
RPG.
game that was
You
like
don't have to
that.
get everything done.
What's that? Well, you know, just in the sense that there's multiple ways you can go about things, and they kind of give you like the optional task to try to do in order to accomplish a certain objective. Um, I just remember, yeah, in the first game, I was trying to go about it in the best way that I could, and try to hit those little optional things that could help me give me a better chance to proceed. Whereas in the second game, there were moments where they do lock you into like a certain task, but it wasn't for like as long a period, or or as I don't know. I'm just kind of talking.
Monotonous.
It didn't feel as monotonous to me. Like say like the wedding. I thought the wedding was so much fun. The way like you have to like keep the huntsman make sure he's not drinking too much beer. Um, got to talk to some people, kind of like schmooze with some people, see if you can get some food from the kitchen for the beggars. You didn't need to do that stuff, but I like that. For me, like that was less of a like, regardless if you did it or not, it wasn't like you were like locked in. It didn't feel as it felt more freeing still. You know what I mean? But I still respect the monastery part in the first game a lot. But I was just surprised we didn't get. For me, I can't think of anything comparable to that in the second game. Uh,
Well, I think
to
what the
that to the
first game
extent of it.
does, I think to make your point clearer, Kev, I think
Yeah, you
the
might.
first game sort of like forces you into, because Kingdom Come Deliverance to me is like half RPG, half lifestyle.
Yes.
If that makes sense. In the
Hmm.
first game, that concept is forced on you in the first game. Like again, going into the monastery, you you're there because of a quest. You're trying to find somebody, and you have to abide by the schedules, by the eating schedules, by the going to a lecture, going to doing chores, and it is monotonous to players who don't want to do that. And I get it, doesn't mean you're not a real gamer. It challenges people.
Right.
Um, I was loving every minute of it because of the historical immersion.
Hmm.
But I do recall myself sitting there because we've all never played a game like Come Deliverance. Like when that first came out, we didn't know. We didn't know what we were in store for. What was the game going to expect of you? How do you proceed with it? And I do remember feeling a little.
I would argue the older Elder Scrolls games had a sense of urgency about them. Some quests would expire. You couldn't just finish. You couldn't just ignore them and do them whenever.
Right.
Right, but I would say that the consequences of not doing things or doing certain things would be a little higher. In
Hmm.
Kingdom Come, I feel like would be more punishing because it tries to give you that real immersion. Like Elder Scrolls, it's like okay, yeah, there are some things you just can't do if you don't do them or whatever. But like I don't know, I never felt that with Skyrim. Like I never felt
Before
any.
Skyrim, like I'm talking about Morrowind and then
Oh, yeah,
Daggerfall.
I got
Daggerfall, you could actually, if you don't do stuff in a timely fashion, you'll just never beat the game.
There was a
That's fair.
moment where I actually game overed in the second game here because of a time sensitive thing. Where I was
Oh,
trying to
me too.
remember when I said I was trying to get to Trotsky to do my archery. I like
Yes.
so like I was in Kudenberg. I was trying to get to Trotsky, and then as soon as I arrived at Trotsky, it said game over, and I was like, okay, why? And I didn't realize till later that there's. Remember when you had to like round up some of the Devil's Den guys to
Yes.
be in your party or whatever to before
Yeah.
Ended
you
up killing a
proceed.
few of them.
There was one guy who's like he's like in the stocks in the middle of town somewhere, and you have to free
Oh
him.
yeah.
And if you don't free him within a certain time of when he's about to be like executed or whatever, uh, it basically says game over and Hans has died because of something because of this guy not being freed. Uh,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah,
Huh.
which I thought was strange because I was like I thought the Devil's Den like rounding people up it was just to
Well,
try to get as many people as you can. I didn't know that it was going to be some people were consequential to the main
I
story.
agree fully with what you're saying. I was really expecting the game to be a little bit more open and sandboxy. Like, it brings me back to the very first quest in Sigmund's camps, and you meet Neil deGrasse Tyson. I feel that you should have been able to accuse him of committing the murder.
Oh, it didn't allow you. It didn't allow you to.
No, it didn't allow you to, and
Oh,
I think
wow.
that was an RP fail. I think you should have been able to point it towards him being, why do I have to say he's innocent? Why is that the only option? I should have been able to say whatever I wanted at that time. Now, all of us beating the game, no, it's a good thing that we saved him because he ends up saving us later on, but it should have been an option, and maybe that's something that plays out differently. Maybe Henry gets wounded, and in final cutscene he's got a scar or something because Musa's not there.
Ah, true. That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, because I didn't even
That really
think of that.
bothered me. Just that, and
How much did it bother you?
Well, it was the first time in the game where it's like I don't have any choice over this. Like Yanish, I felt like I had a choice to free him or not. Apparently, if I chose not, I chose to free him. Or apparently, if I chose not to, it would have failed the game. And now that makes me think with Adler, the Polish guy, the Polak, if I had chosen to kill him, which I was inclined to do, because he's allegedly a rapist, he could have lost the game there too, because he was consequential to the story.
It's interesting how it
We
works.
got a home run. Ryan Haim. You going out to the watcher? Alright, I'll be right back.
Take your time.
Alright.
But yeah, I guess like the main story is pushing in a certain direction, and there's gonna be some, depending on what you choose in certain points, it's going to diverge, and then maybe regardless of some choices you make, the same outcome sort of still happens anyway. So I guess a guy, what was that guy's name again? It was like something with an M, like Mali or Musa.
Musa?
Yeah, it was Musa, right?
Yeah, he was the Persian.
Right.
I think he was Persian.
What did you think of that, Robert?
What's that? Like
in,
his character?
in terms of like how accurate was that for you? In terms of
I
him,
think
his being there, because wasn't he like he lives like across the sea or the ocean or the sea, right?
Yeah, I believe. I mean, I have to research exactly where he was, where he's from. I know he says it one time, but he's definitely. I mean, he's not European, but
Right. They don't pretend he is, you know.
Who are we talking about? I just got back to the computer.
Musa.
He's from Mali.
Okay.
Overall, he's a great character.
Yeah. I was.
They treat their women better. I like that character.
Yeah, I liked him.
I like Samuel too.
Yeah, I like them all.
The game was not woke in any way.
No, and if you know the creative director
It wasn't
Daniel
Christian,
Vavra,
yeah,
he's definitely not like he's definitely like he just wants to portray a certain time period the way it was, and he's not pulling any punches. Like
I'm sure Deep Silver, being a publisher, he didn't have a publisher in the first game, put a little bit of emphasis on adding certain features that he wouldn't normally add it, and he had to pretend he did that organically.
I still felt
anything was overly woke.
What's that?
And I don't feel that anything was overly woke. Musa was a great character. Fine.
Yeah.
And who was the other character that was questionable? We had the French guy, which was a little annoying, but you could tell right off the bat that he was terrible.
By the way, did you suspect him at any point before he kind of reveals himself?
Yeah, as soon as I saw him. Obvious. That's not the fucking plan.
Not BSing.
Not gonna met that guy. Fuck him.
I will say, Robert, when we rescue Hans and him from the what was it? What's the region? Oh, the Camp Cold or whatever. It's on the tip of my tongue. But when you rescue the two of them, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is my French friend, and I was down with it, but like I did have a thought in the back of my mind where it's like, did Hans make another mistake, or is he like misjudging a situation again, and it's gonna bite us in the ass somehow? Because there are moments leading up to where it's just like Hans does keep making kind of just bad choices. Uh,
Yeah, he's a little immature. I didn't trust him at all from the get-go. And I will say that very early on, he does something where he's like, "Oh, I can't do that. Only noblemen can't kill this peasant guard." And then you gotta realize that when you're talking to Rosa, babe of the game, like the modern Teresa, it was awesome. And she wants you to savagely murder not the looters, the squatters in her castle.
hmm
Like a nobleman doesn't care about killing a peasant. It's just how they are. So this guy's a French nobleman. Oh, I can't kill a Slavic fucking peasant. Come on, forget about it. Eh.
Mm.
Can't trust that guy.
Ralph,
Something's up with him.
Ralph, I would argue that, like Robin was definitely portrayed as a stereotypical Frenchman, in the sense that like he boasts, he over exaggerates
He
his
talks a lot.
accomplishments. Yeah, talks a lot.
Mhm.
He may, and that's the thing is like he's very he's cultured and has done and seen a lot, so he does have
Do you
accomplishments.
think he's done and seen a lot? I mean, some of the dialogue in the game too says that a lot of his stories are made up. But yeah, I will say the
What the fuck
game
are you
does.
talking about, dude? Typically, you're talking fucking nonsense at this point.
No, they do. There's one scene where he says something, and they're like, and then I think it's actually you and Hans, and Hans is like, yeah, he tends to embellish a lot on his experience, like how he saved Gutenberg.
I did
Yeah,
have.
no, I mean,
Robert, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
well, I mean, what I'm saying is, I don't believe a single word that came out of his mouth.
Mm.
No, but that doesn't mean that I suspected him that he would betray us, because there's
Really? I did not like him or trust him from the beginning. I thought he was going to be a betrayal character.
Actually, Robert, the reason why I was kind of on edge around him is because of how well traveled he was. It made me question like how has he gone from place to place to place. It reminded me of there's a book I read in college. Is it Faust? It's about some guy who just keeps traveling from, he kind of just keeps masquerading, across like region to region to region, and he keeps getting into really bad situations, but he gets out of it, and the consequences kind of just don't really catch up to him because he kind of just crosses the line every time, and he gets out of it. He's kind of like a bit of a weasel in a way. When the second he was established as a very like well traveled person, and especially since he was introduced through Hans, where I just know he's not the best judge of character.
That's the character.
Um, I did have that in the back of my mind where it's like, yeah, just because he talks a lot, yeah, you're right. It's like a Venn diagram. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad guy, or that he's that, oh, this
Yeah,
is
he was just full of shit.
predictable that he's going to betray us or anything. But
Yeah,
um,
he was
What did you guys do when you were given the opportunity to kill him?
I killed him.
I killed him.
Yeah, I killed him as well.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. That guy didn't deserve any quarter. Like fuck him. Like once he
Mhm.
revealed himself, actually, I found myself more pissed off at him because not just because he killed Adder, but also and betrayed us, but in the scene before that in the Italian courts, like when you first go into the court and he chickens out. You were only supposed to take care of the guards on the ramparts.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. He says, "Oh, I'm a nobleman. I can't kill this guard."
Well, yeah, he says that as an excuse, but like, there's something like I took that as like, oh well, he's showing himself as not as a great a warrior as we already know that he exaggerates and embellishes the truth.
Yeah.
Here's where he's proving it. But I took pity on him. Like when you have a chance to humiliate him during the mission, and I actually chose to be a team player, and I was just like, hey, don't worry about it. I took care of it, and I
Yeah.
treated him like one of the team. And there's a lot of times in the game where it's like he sometimes acts like a friend to you, and not like in a suspicious way either. Just like he just generally seemed like a guy who had assets and was able to help you guys in some way. He's just a shit warrior, and really not as like he's well traveled, he's educated, but he's not a fighter, even though he pretends
Yeah.
to be. And we've all met people who are like that, where they just say a lot and talk a whole lot, but can't do a whole lot. And they sometimes they're close to you or friends of yours, or acquaintances, and it's like, you want to keep the mission going, and you don't want to outright just shit on him in front of everybody. You want to keep the mission moving. So that's how I took it, but that's why I took his betrayal so personally, and I didn't give him a chance to fucking run.
You helped him. See, I always chose like the aloof or the negative interactions with him throughout the games because I just didn't like him.
That's fair.
You know what
did you guys do when you met the Von, whatever his name is, the M guy, the main guy?
Yeah. So by the way, did you guys sneak? Did you guys actually like sneak in?
German guy.
Sneak through the prog camp to see him? Because I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So the main guy, the leader of the prog camp.
Yeah, Von Olitz. Olitz.
Yeah, Von Olitz.
Yeah. There you go. I killed him, but it was like not in the ceremonious way.
Yeah. So I did the same thing. I killed him, but it was more of like I agreed with everything he said. He hit the nail on the head with his synopsis
He brought up
of
great
Henry
points.
and war in general.
Right.
And I killed him in an honorable way so he can die with honor. I actually liked him at the end. My version of Henry was fond of him.
See, I agreed with what he was saying, but I didn't kill him. I let him die. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to even give you the satisfaction of me, having, like you even matter to me at this point. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I let him die, and then, and I also I got Sam out of there, Samuel.
Picked up Sam. Yeah.
I like how he basically says no, you guys can just come for me later. And there's really like if you look at like the quests what to do, there's nothing saying that you should actually pick him up and get him out of there. It's only until you get to the horse where there's a prompt that says leave with Sam or leave by yourself.
Leave alone. Yeah.
Oh, see, what me is I was just walking to find a horse, and I saw that the barn doors were open, and I just walked in, and I was like, oh shit, Sam's still there, Brambart's gone, I just picked him up to see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even get to that leave with Sam or leave alone option.
That was a pretty tough stealth section. Like, I did kind of have to keep, I had to retry it a few times,
Oh, yes, no, I killed a guard pretty early on, and I put on his uniform, and I was good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you threw on Prager colors, no one bothered you.
Ah, see.
That's so weird though, because I remember I talked about that where like some
Right.
guards aren't phased by that, so that's interesting that in
for that quest, you could get into the camp. There's one guard who questions you, but there's a speech check that you can. I was able to pass. I think most people should pass in the end game. He accuses you of being a murderer from one of the towns you burnt down.
Right.
And you just say no, or you threaten him actually, and he lets you in.
That's interesting.
Who did you guys romance throughout the game? Were you able to?
Everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Well, besides Hans, obviously.
Most everyone.
I slept with every brothel I used.
Well, yeah, I've done that.
I use every brothel.
And I even helped out one of the brothels so that I can get free services.
Oh, wow.
In Kuhnberg.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, so every brothel. There's the girl in... I forget what castle it is, but the one part of the Trotsky line.
Oh, is it the one that you walk out into the forest with, and she like lies? She's
Yes,
pretty much naked. I couldn't tell if because I did get with her too, but I couldn't tell if that was like a story thing where she was like trying to lead us on to distract us or something. Because didn't she say like wasn't she pretty much like?
She was ultimately right.
Well, yeah, I think she was like in cahoots at the end. Like it's like oh yeah.
No, she was part of their team.
Right.
And you never see her again, which is unfortunate because she's a much better mate than Catherine. Catherine, I did because whatever, like why not? But she's an old lady. Like I belong with young. Henry's 19, 18, 20 years old. I don't belong with a fucking 35-year-old like Catherine. Like she's old and washed up. And you can see in her face she's used. So I slept with the first girl. I slept with Rosa, and I slept with Catherine. But Catherine was just like whatever. Like she like basically mounted me, and I just went along with it.
I have to admit, I didn't know that by selecting Kiss Hans that it was going to be
No way!
Is son. What did you think that meant?
Okay, have you ever seen the movie Barry Lyndon?
Oh my god.
Have you ever seen Barry Lyndon by Stanley Kubrick?
No. Oh.
There's a
Does he
scene.
get
There's a
tossed
scene
that
where
movie?
like you're in war, and your commanding officer is about to like I'm not like basically it's like they're at their last rope, and the commanding officer says like to the protagonist, he says like kiss me like basically, and it was kind of like a war thing where it was just like um this is just our it's not supposed to be kind of like a sexual thing, more of just like a way to just be like for me, I took it in the immersion of like this is war, and it doesn't matter what your orientation is or anything, or almost like a prison thing in a way, I guess, but not for me, I thought I was just gonna kiss him because but
That's great.
but if it,
Yeah, but I don't understand.
if you
He's a completionist.
okay, so
It's just, you had to do it for the completion.
if you ever watch Barry Lyndon, you'll understand the execution of what I'm talking about. That like
Hey man.
I mean, I don't know. You were in the armed services, so I don't know if maybe you would
I
understand.
never kissed my bro, dude. Like, we would, whatever happens in the field stays in the field, and we joke about it all day. But I mean,
Right.
like, it's just funny the way you put it. Like, it's like an option is just kiss Hans, and I'm like,
I never even got that option, so I don't know what you guys did.
What's
I
that?
didn't know. I never got that option.
Yeah, I never got an option to even kiss him.
The only option I got to romance Hans at all was after you guys get out of prison and you're about to go to Nabokov and you're about to mount your horse, and I think Hans apologizes to you, and he said something like, "Hey, I know I've been acting like an idiot."
Right.
There's an option to like open a, like a romantic gesture to him, saying like, "Oh, I care about you," but like I completely ignore that.
Oh, yeah, so I probably just saw that and passed right over it.
Yeah, then it was never like once I avoided that, it was never presented to me again.
I think that was like a choice that would put you on the road to the late, because when I did it, it was after the starvation scene during the siege, like where everyone's starving, and then you make the choice that you're gonna go out with Sam. That's when he it's kind of like we're all at our wits' end, and Siegfried's, by the way, is in our chat. Our friend Siegfried, he's seen Barry Lyndon, so maybe he can vouch for me. But
No, I think it's just funny the way you said it. That's all.
yeah. But yeah, I did think it was funny though when it was just more than that. I was just like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Not what I wanted, but
I think it was also with the foreknowledge that there's like a romantic interest line that you could do with Hans. So it's like with that foresight in mind, I actively did everything I could to not have that given to
That's
me.
a good
That
point,
makes
yeah.
sense?
oh, so you knew beforehand about it? Because like yeah,
You didn't. I guess.
I
I don't know if you did.
vaguely I heard something, but I was really avoiding spoilers throughout the whole thing. Like, but I really wasn't trying to. For me,
From what I heard,
I don't know. I guess
that's
maybe I was just caught up in the moment. Because if you saw the scene too, it really was like a touch. Like I don't know, but whatever. I don't. That's not the way I fly. But it just.
Hey, I'm not gonna judge you, bro.
Yeah, I just wanted to take the Barry Lyndon route.
That's fine, man. It's all good. Makes sense.
I guess we can talk about the ending if you guys want. For me, with well, first of all, I want to say that the final moment when you come roaring back with Radzig's men, and you're taking over your the castle again. I literally was playing that whole section standing up, and I was literally
standing up.
I was standing up, and I was literally battle crying
Did you
throughout.
stand up during the final chapters of the last Harry Potter book too?
Yes.
Is it on that level?
Grant, I was in high school at the time, or was it high school
I'm
when the
saying
final
is it
book?
at that level of great storytelling?
It was that great storytelling for me. Like I
Oh,
felt
wow.
this rush of emotion where I was
Beautiful.
like, "Yeah, fuck this. Let's fuck these guys up. Let's go." I was literally I was literally doing like actual battle cries. I was like, "Yeah, let's go, yeah!" Like I felt that, and then that was awesome. And honestly, that's where when you what I like about that is before that you're brought back to the first scene in the game where you're playing as Godwin, and it's a full circle moment.
Yeah, so an interesting link for that for me, in my memory, and once again, this goes back to, I guess, February 4th, as we learned earlier tonight.
Right.
I remember that Henry gets shot by the arrow with Godwin there, and then obviously we see in the last scene it's Hans. I don't know if I just mistook Henry for
I
Hans or Hans for Henry in
I,
that situation.
I actually in the beginning I made that same mistake, but once he
Oh,
started
you did?
talking,
Okay.
I recognized the voice of
Alright,
Hans.
so
But
that's
you're
a
right.
personal problem with myself.
You're right. The design kind because the way I mean the characters look the same as they did similar to the first game, but if you actually go back to the first game, they actually the character designs are a little bit more generic compared to their more like better graphics.
More detailed.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, it
definitely
was
more
more
detailed in
detailed.
the second
So
one for
I
sure.
was like, oh, like is this a better detailed Henry? And then, but then I caught on pretty quickly that it was Hans after he talked. But you're right. I did kind of like question that at first. Uh, so I don't blame you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I feel like that rush of emotion where Henry kind of like comes in to save the day. It worked with the mechanic of having to play as Godwin. Like this is where I feel Godwin playing as Godwin kind of works in this situation where it's like you're playing as the underdog. You're in an underdog situation, not as an underdog, but like you're in the underdog situation where it's like they're pretty much taking over the castle at this point.
Henry
Um,
running in was great, and then that as I've spoken to you guys before about Henry being legitimized, you see in that scene there, in the cutscene, Yopst comes up and says, "Are you ready, youngster?" or something along those lines.
Yep.
Where Henry's in front of the army with the three other noblemen, and Yopst, who's a member of the HR, he's not even a Bohemian nobleman. He's literally one of the right-hand men to the Emperor of the HRE. Says, "Are you ready for this, youngster?" or something along those lines that kind of, for me, establishes that Henry's essentially been confirmed and legitimized.
And his armor too.
Yes.
they did
Well, if you
change it,
go into
yeah.
his armor, all his armor gets changed to nobleman armor.
Hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. No, everything
Yeah,
about that scene screams that he's either been like legitimized
Yeah.
or knighted or
Now,
something
I
like
was
that.
reading today about the law, basically medieval law in regards to it, and it kind of seems like King Wenceslas will have to affirm it. But at this point, Radzik has done everything that needs to happen before that, and then the Wenceslas thing is just a formality, but the formality needs to happen for succession rights to be given. And since Radzik, in our game, not in real life, but in our game, has no other heirs, it is something that likely would happen.
Mm.
As far as I understand, with knighthood, that's like a brotherhood, and that's like that doesn't need the permissions of the king.
No, so
Like
knighthood
being a
is
bastard doesn't
because
matter.
knights are typically nobles, but they're not primary heirs, so succession rights don't really matter as much. So you can just be a knight.
Yeah,
Like you could be, a bastard could be knighted.
right.
But I argue that he's not even being knighted. I argue that he will eventually, if not already, become a full blue-blooded noble.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would say that
Yeah.
would be the goal of the storyline. I mean, we would
Yeah.
hope. I mean, Henry has done countless things that historically would have.
Well, it's incredible. I mean,
Right.
first of all, he's 20 years old and he's already a commander. He became a commander at the same time as Hans Capon, who is a blue-blooded noble.
That's true.
He is the bastard of Radzik, who is essentially the second in command for the Bohemian military, and he has the military prowess to justify that. So it's a no-brainer. He's gonna get land. He's gonna get estates. Whether he gets inheritance rights, we'll have to see how the story plays out. But I think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
To answer your question
Yeah, sure.
about how I felt about not just the ending but also just like that cavalry scene, that reminded me a lot of the charge of the Rohirrim from the Return of the King.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yep.
I did. Good call.
Pretty much almost, I don't want to say verbatim, but almost seemed frame for frame, like in certain aspects.
It echoed the kind of like in spirit, it kind of echoed the spirit of it.
And also like, I mean, it's just cool, just seeing it like on a cinematography level, and then like on a historical level, like what would the attacking army be doing, or the defending army really? Seeing an enemy, a bunch of cavalry just charging at you at your lines, like you're not just gonna run away. You're gonna try to form a line, get your guys together,
right?
Hastily get a spearman line together, and like I don't think there was a way they were going to win that fight, but spears definitely deterred horses. Like back in the day, like war horses would still go, but like they wouldn't just charge blindly into spears. They just wouldn't because they're animals. So like spears do something, but by the time that fight was taken to a close, the attacking army, they were like pretty much tired. It was like a tired enemy,
right?
Compared to like fresh troops that just arrived. So I mean, it was no brainer they were going to lose that one. But it's just interesting to just see that on a historical level.
I think it was like one of the best executed like battle sequences. Like for me, like that entire whole siege thing. For me, like I've never played anything like that in video games. I don't think. In terms of just how grounded it was in reality, but also like you said, it was like it balanced like a sense of cinema with reality that I really liked.
Yeah, being forced to starve. You don't like while you're playing that game, you don't typically let yourself starve, and then you're in a situation where you have to. And I remember looking at my inventory because it's like muscle memory. Like, okay, I'm hungry. Let me go into my inventory and get some food. I'm like, I don't have my fucking food. What happened to my food? And then it's like there's that you could talk to that one dude who's the cook, and he pretty much tells you like, hey, I had to take your food for rationing.
Oh yeah, I remember that happened to me. Yeah.
Yeah, you could choose to tell him, be like, hey, I don't like that you took my food, but I didn't say that.
Right.
But it's pretty funny.
I love that.
I just said yeah. I mean that's it. It's needed for the greater good.
Yeah. It's interesting that the game even gives you the option to just like criticize him, be like, yeah, I don't like it. You took my food. Fuck you. It's like such an unnecessary, selfish thing to say.
That was one of the first things. When I got out of the castle, I immediately found a store of food and just started eating it all.
That's what I did too.
Yeah.
I love that Dry Devil wanted to eat mutt, and you had to be like, I basically told him to fuck off.
Yep, that's what I did too. I was like, fuck you, don't touch mutt.
Yeah.
Dry Devil was an interesting character. At times I liked him. I liked that he shot the guy, Van Alitz.
Yeah. Right.
But at other times he was incredibly annoying. At first I wanted to kill all his men so they were all dishonorable. But obviously I only had to kill 2 of them.
Yeah, I wasn't too fond of any of the Devil's Den characters until they kind of when the game progresses, they grow on me, and yet I still.
I think that's the point.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even when when Adder gets killed, I felt a sense of.
Out. Oh my god! Oh, he's out.
It's before Adder gets killed, and he makes that really big mistake during the silver heist.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to wring his neck.
Yeah.
I wanted to kill him myself.
He did there. She was kind of good looking.
I appreciated the comedy of it. I appreciated the comedy of it.
Like, what do you expect? Have you ever met a Pole? That's how they act.
I appreciated the comedy of it a lot. But in terms of me just wanting to get just knowing how how much was at stake there, I was like, I want to wring your neck so bad. So but it was funny because then when he dies, I'm like, wow, like the game can make me want to wring the guy's neck, but then also, be furious that he got killed in such a way.
When he died, I was just annoyed that we wouldn't get out of there sooner. I wanted to boogie.
Well, I of course needed to grab all the books that I could get because didn't Samuel say, oh, this is like a treasure trove, like stock up while you can or something?
Before he dies, though, that's inside the actual Italian court, and I grabbed a bunch of books. I hate it now that I didn't read any of them, obviously, because the game just ends after that.
I had time to read it. afterwards.
Oh, you read the books?
Yeah.
No, I adhere to the sense of urgency. The
Um.
escape was really cool. You fight Eric. Eric once again beats you. Or that was the first time Eric beats you. And then the explosion, he misses it by the nick of time. It was good. That was a good fight.
Right. Yeah.
That last battle. That I think my favorite part of the game was when Henry returns with the cavalry was incredible, and then that heist was awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, that the whole Devil's Den, trope, like getting the guys together and doing these small man team missions, reminded me a lot of Devil's Brigade or the Dirty Dozen. If you guys have ever seen those movies, they're like old 60s or 70s
Yes,
films.
I've seen Dirty Dozen.
Very much reminded me of that. And you have like a small squad, small team of misfits. In Devil's Brigade in particular, because that was also historically true, like that actual assembly of men, where it's like you have like a couple of professional soldiers, and then you have like a bunch of like degenerates and like prisoners that are trying to make something work, and they all end up becoming like really close in the end.
Yeah.
And so there's something really cool about that, and I mean it's a plot line that's sort of, it's been used before, so it's not quite original, but it's like the game still is really great, and it's like those are tropes that can still work in any sitting.
I agree. Yeah, like who was it? Kubienka, like he stood out. Yeah, of course, Dry Devil. Dry Devil, yeah, I was a little. He was very rough around the edges for me at first, but yeah, because I like when we first start rounding up the Dry Devil guys, I was just like, all right, what are we doing? Like I trusted the story, but I was just like why are we associating with all these guys? Like, but then I like how they become kind of like this like ragtag team that love them or hate them, you know they're a good group, and they stood out and were memorable to me. But
Yeah, Dry Devil reminded me of Scrooge McDuck a little bit
yeah, I could see that.
from DuckTales.
Yeah, I could see
Just
that.
like it's the voice actor, I think, is what it sounded like. Um, but yeah, I mean it's just a very grounded story, very very realistic characters and character interactions.
Right.
All the way from just start to finish is just great. And going back to your point, the game is big enough to where like Trotsky could have been its own game, and
Hmm.
Gutenberg could have been its own game.
Like Trotsky feels like
Everything.
like ages ago. It feels like a lifetime ago for me.
Yeah.
I mean, Gutenberg A could have been its own game, and Gutenberg B could have been its own game. Some games
Yeah.
are 10, 15 hours long. I'm looking at playing Atomfall, potentially, and that's a 15-hour long game.
Just the
Which
Kudenberg
is
City.
Gutenberg A or
The
B.
Kudenberg City alone, like I was doing all the side quests, and I was like, this is insane how much content I'm doing. Like,
See, it felt
Yeah.
dirty, consumerist, and just in general, like Gutenberg wasn't for me. I
mm,
didn't do many side quests there. I did the serial killer side quest because that was a brilliant
I
side
like
quest.
that
But
one.
overall, the game just felt dishonorable, too dirty, consumerist, and dishonorable.
I
Really
think
where
I
it's
think my
going.
favorite side quest still is the one that made you think a lot with when you go to the Cuman camp and you're getting drunk with them, and
Yeah, that was a fun one.
it's like you have to watch your alcohol, but you're also watch what you're saying because you definitely
Yeah.
feel like you feel for Henry in that, but you also kind of
Yeah.
like understand that war isn't black and white, and that these guys were just they're following the king's orders and or whatever.
So in the first game, I would indiscriminately kill any humans I saw on the road.
Hmm.
That quest line rather very much so humanized the humans, and I really didn't pick any fights with them throughout the game.
Yeah,
Unless,
it recontextualized
or-
my thoughts on them.
yeah, that was a good quest. I also enjoyed the Indians, the Romani people.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That was a fun quest line.
Yeah, exactly. There almost wasn't a clear enemy at one point in time. Like
No.
because again, the whole impression of who von Burgau is, you knew he was a potential ally, but could you trust him? Well, you got to get him to trust you. Like, okay, how do you do that? You got to do his dirty work and stuff. And if you put the mean to the sword, you really made a big mistake. Like and again, in my heart, I was like, yeah, Samin didn't mean to die, but it happened, and we're just
Right.
gonna keep going with this. And I just kept going with it. And it's like at the end, your parents kind of. I guess that's something we're gonna talk about next. Is just like
Yes, definitely.
how with how your parents feel about the things you've done. And I feel that my mother called me a fucking bandit. She was like, "You acted like a bandit." I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here,
Yeah, she
stupid
said that to
bitch."
me too. She said that
I
to
mean,
me.
that's what I didn't like
And
that
I'm
part
surprised that
because
I'm
I
surprised she
felt
said
like
that to
she said
you.
stuff that wasn't accurate.
No,
They
absolutely.
accused me of all these things, and it's like, what? Well, like, what are you talking? They were peasant build. They were peasant minded. My parents. They were
Like
peasants, so I
that,
can't really
yeah.
blame them.
I will.
And then what was great was that, and I actually, Robert, I messaged you in the middle of that cutscene because I felt like you would feel the same way as I did. That this is a pansy ending. Because it was like why? Like, why are you saying this to me? Like, who are you, first of all? And, like, why are you saying this to me? And then as soon as that daydream ends, Radzik walks up and it's like, yeah, you're fucking badass, son.
Yeah,
You're awesome.
no, Radzik's like a real bro. He's like, come on, son.
Radzik's a nobleman. Radzik's
Yeah.
capable of, like, thought. He has an inner monologue. He's a human.
Yeah, but
Whereas
Uh,
Martin and your mother are potentially just peasants. They don't think. There's nothing to them.
but you know
They're
what?
more of part of the hive.
The way I took it, and first of all, when that scene where he first sits down on the hill and then they join him and they first start talking to him, it's like one of the rare moments in like video games where I was actually getting teary eyed.
Really?
Yeah, because
I felt that for sure. Yeah.
because to me, like say like the first game I feel like is like I was saying before, I think I mentioned before, like if it's definitely a coming of age story. He's starting literally from nothing. Um, Whereas the second game feels more of like, even though he hasn't achieved legitimacy or knighthood yet, like, um, throughout the game, like it feels more of like forging your own, like, who are you in this world? Now that you've got your skills and that you've had some experience, like who are you in this world? Like, how are you going to forge your path? Um,
I have to ask, what ending did you get? Like, what did your parents say to you?
So this is what when my parents sit down with me and they say, you achieved stuff, and this is kind of what got me because I think of like my own parents where it's like, they love me, but like me personally, I don't feel like I've achieved what I wanted in life yet. So for there to be a scene where it's like they're they're long dead, but they're kind of like with him, and he's achieved something, and they acknowledge him for that. That's where I was like, oh, that's a great moment there. But then yes, then they start talking like, but the way you went about it wasn't the best way. Like you were a bandit, or like you could have made better choices or whatever. For me, like obviously, keep in mind those aren't his parents. Like those are that's his like his
Like
own
his subconscious.
subconscious, his guilt, or his own
Yeah, I agree with that.
his own moral compass or whatever, imagining what his parents might think of him in that situation, or maybe still thinking of like even when you've achieved something, your parents are parents are always going to have expectations of you, of how you go about things, and whether you lived up to them or not.
You fucking suck.
For me, that scene
I
is
saw
more
you
about
game.
wrestling with what you've done and coming to terms with it, regardless of whether it would have made your parents proud or not. Um, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how the guy who made the game felt when he did that. It could very well be your parents' ghost form, if he's a religious man.
I mean, the game has a lot of religious undertones to it. I mean,
But yeah. But either way, I understand what you're saying. So you got, like, you were, see, I never got accused of being a thief or a bandit. I was accused, though, of being, just like Vanolitz, Ishvan Tofta. They said specifically that I was the same as him.
mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, whatever, it is what it is. It was war.
Right.
Well, it was a mixed message for me where, like, my father was like, Ishvan Toph deserved to die, you did the right thing. But then mom said, I was a bandit and stuff, and then it was just like
Really?
it was
Martin said that he deserved to die.
Yeah, but that's my point though. Is like it's like I feel like it's almost like okay, everything you did in the game, your parents are gonna judge you for it, and this and that, and this is how you're gonna be remembered by them, or whatever it is. Maybe it's your impression of yourself, if it's your self-conscious and stuff. But it just some of that kind of annoyed me because like we talked about, when we're setting a trap to get von Berggraf's men and burn the town and stuff, you could challenge Dry Devil, okay, but if you don't, then everyone thinks.
Well, the parents is like it's almost like a soapy, dramatic thing, whereas this is fucking war. What do you expect?
See,
what's gonna happen in this situation?
It's also like your mom, your peasant mom. So it's like I don't know. I mean, what can you expect? You can't expect her to be like, yes, son, you killed them all.
But how many peasants did you sleep with along the way?
Yeah.
Do you still think about these peasant women?
My son is a harlot. My son's a slut.
I guess because
That's actually interesting.
They easily could have just made it a very nice tied bow ending where it's like you did good, son, like you're good, like kind of just echoing what Radzig says to you. I think it's definitely intentional for them to kind of criticize you. It's supposed to make you kind of like whether it landed correctly or not. It's up for debate, but I feel like them. I think it was a conscious decision for them to kind of judge you a bit.
Sure.
Like it wasn't trying to pretend to be like for me it wasn't like like it was trying to say like one answer to what happened, like, oh, Henry, you were bad. You did bad things, or like for me I took it as like this is what they might think of you, of how you went about things. Maybe you have some moral reservations of how you went about things, but you have to come to terms with it. And I don't know if I'm articulating correctly, but
no, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you understand?
But I think it makes it seem like what went down were Henry's machinations, and they weren't. It was just what happened.
We also have to remember
had nothing to do. Like
you also have to remember that like Martin and his mother were like, these are the people who raised him, so they're gonna judge him in a different way because
they never knew
figure.
the person he becomes. Like,
well, and also because parents have different expectations than than someone. So for instance, for Radzig didn't raise Henry. You know what I mean? Like he had Martin take care of him because he knew it would be socially unacceptable for him to take care of him, to father him.
Right.
And so like he's not raising. So like he didn't raise Henry.
Well, there was something else I read
treating him
too.
like I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's a different way than a parent. Like he's a parent, but in a different sense. Like he's treating him as an adult and then he's more championing and more understanding, whereas Martin and his mom raised him from a kid. So it's like to see him and possibly hear about these things he's doing or done. It's hard to like imagine your baby's boy growing up to kill people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's hard. Yeah. So I mean I get some of that.
I see what you're saying, but I think you're demonizing Radzig's role in Henry's youth.
No, I'm not.
Radzig ensured that Henry grew up with inside the castle walls because Martin was an inner castle blacksmith. He was not a town blacksmith. He was inside the walls.
No, I'm not demonizing him. I'm not saying. I'm not saying
it's just easier for Radzig to like support him because he doesn't have the perspective of having raised him, and those.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I just want to throw this in there as a bit of context. I can't remember exactly what's said, but essentially, Radzig says early on in the first game, or somewhere in the first game, he couldn't legitimize Henry because of Radzig's own political problems that he would get himself into that would put Henry in danger, which is why he chose not to marry Teresa and to leave Henry as a bastard. And then if you actually look at Bohemian history, there is a Bohemian king, I can't remember his name, but the name of this bastard is Sir Nicholas. He essentially has a kid with a local mistress from town, a low-born woman, has the kid, and basically it's the same story. He leaves the kid, doesn't nobilize him, or doesn't legitimize him, rather, until later on to protect the child, and when he does legitimize him, he can't get full succession rights. It's a holding with the HRE, which is not part of this conversation, but that's why I believe that Radzik didn't take Henry in from the get-go.
Yeah, I definitely think there's definitely selflessness in Radzik's actions, to do what he did. But what I'm saying is, it's facts are still facts. Like if you don't raise a child from birth and you're not doing the parenting things,
Right.
you're gonna view parenting differently, and not in a bad way. It's just you don't have the same insight.
I agree.
And that's why I feel like Radzik is bonding with Henry more as an adult, and he's not, because he doesn't have that, like, hey, I've never had to raise him as a baby, so, like...
Which is true, and then he makes that joke, he's like, oh, I think you could use some mothering about Catherine, and it's, like, kind of like a distasteful joke, because Henry was indeed close with his mother, and there's obviously a weird, at least in Henry's mind, weird bad blood between his mother and Radzik.
Right.
So it is an interesting, yeah.
Right, and when you mention taking on Catherine as like a wife or something, Martin says right away, oh, she's old enough to be your mother, and
you can use some mothering.
Right, and whereas Radzik's like, hell yeah, go for it, like do it, my guy, and it's like it's just cool, like it's like bonding with a different dad. It's like having two dads, and
right.
One's a little like cooler, quote unquote, and one's more
cool dad.
Cool dad versus like stern dad.
Because Radzik and Henry, they're more because they're meeting each other more as adults, and they're more like thrown into the same realm of like the politics of everything, regardless of Henry's status compared to Radzik. He's still in that like that pool,
realm.
the same pool. You know what I mean? Like so, it's like it's almost like a shared bond compared to, I mean, Henry didn't even know the full story of his own father, of his own, of Martin, until later
I would
on.
love to know the full story of Martin. We still don't know the full story of Martin. We still haven't established how he's such a great warrior. As he's a blacksmith, he's an excellent blacksmith.
Right.
But he also is supposedly an amazing swordsmith. And to be an amazing swordsmith, you have to at some point be a warrior, right?
Yeah.
More or less. You would think.
So I do believe there's still more to the story of Martin. I think Martin's an excellent character.
Great. I mean, I would also argue that like Radzik is less sentimental, less emotional. He's more pragmatic. He's not politically minded. So like in the first game, he's a little more divisive in the sense that like he not uses Henry, but like he encourages putting him into situations to make him prove himself, to make him...
Well, that's a great point to bring up, and that even you bring into the first game, where he encourages Henry goes on a stealth mission.
Yeah, right. And it's like...
Whereas if he really viewed him as his noble son and his heir apparent, he would bring him with him to meet nobility, bring him with him to the negotiations with the Orpst,
but I think
the army.
But I think Radzik's also not delusional and knows that Henry is mentally a peasant, and so it's like
he's a half peasant mentally. I do think that, like I said, by the end of this game, by the end of the story, we will see Henry ascend to his legitimate heir.
The first game, but yeah.
In
the first game, he's more of like that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
right.
But he's not until the end of the first game.
Right, and he knows that Henry came up the hard way, and so he has to keep coming up the hard way. He can't just like throw a guy like Henry and then put him into books and studies right away. Like you have to have him like come up the hard way and earn his stripes, and then eventually, I guess like Kev said in the second game, you sort of forge who is Henry, who is you, and
but even Radzik notwithstanding, Henry would eventually, like if he had came up the hard way, been a man at arms, he would have become some sort of a captain or basically a right-hand man to any lord. I forget what they called him in the game. But he would have established himself anyway, just his skill set and his prowess.
Yep.
I agree. Because in both games, in both their endings, you're on like kind of like the hill or a hill with Radzig, right?
Yep.
Uh, the way I always took those scenes, or at least the way I took the first one and the second one, is regardless of like status and the politics of everything and everything, like it felt like that was the one moment where, or like the one of the rare moments where Radzig is like he drops the pretense of his role as his role versus like all the politics he has to maneuver and navigate. He's just talking to Henry like
Yeah, yeah.
he's being very transparent and sincere, and he I would argue like he's very empathetic in the way that um you wouldn't think, because like you guys said, he uses Henry in certain situations, but and like he doesn't have the same perspective that Martin would have as a father for him. But there's something that's very cathartic and real. It's like it feels like the time period just washes away when they're on that hill together, and they're just talking to each other. I don't know if you guys felt that in any way, but
No, I felt that it was a great scene. I didn't feel the time period washed away. I mean, it was a
no,
real
like,
time period.
and I don't mean that.
Humans
Obviously, I don't mean that
years.
literally, but like, you know what I mean. Like, I just mean the culture and the way society has to be.
Yeah.
The class
Well,
structure and everything. I feel like it's kind of like their one moment with where they can just be real with each other, where there's no one else around,
yeah.
and it's not that they're
Yeah.
it's not that they're trying to hide from who where they're brought up and where they what their lives are, but like it just feels like they're just being very humane. Like
But you're saying it struck a chord with you personally, and that's beautiful.
yeah, definitely.
That's great. That's awesome. I love that. I enjoyed. I would say for me personally, the Radzik portion right after that was more of a personal experience. But that's awesome that the first portion was so relatable for you.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's what's great
about the
this
first
game.
or
The
second
game
game?
is. I thought we were talking about the end of the second game on the hill. We're talking to parents, no?
I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, the second one, but
It's awesome
even in the
that
first
Kevin
one with
feels such a
Radzik.
strong way. I don't remember the end of the first game well enough, and it's unfortunate. I think you're the
It's
one
kind of
of the lucky
similar
ones here where you
it's
just
kind of
played the
similar in
first
the
game.
sense that you have a talk with Radzig for a bit.
Yeah, you're on horses.
Like a heart to heart,
You're leveling out with him.
Yeah.
Like he's dropping the rank, the whole because like especially in the
It
first
feels
game.
much less loving
where-
though in the first one, from what I remember.
Well, yeah, because they're getting this. They're getting.
Because they don't really know each other yet. Yeah, exactly.
And Radzik probably feels awkward because he doesn't know how he should be with his son. He's never had. He's never
I mean,
been able
it's
to
his first
acknowledge
bastard for all we know.
Yeah, there is a sense that they still need to
like
get to
the
know each
second
other
game
more.
For sure.
There is a sense of like I wish they had more
Oh,
time
yeah,
to kind of
and
just
he-
like
second
not be like deep in the plot of what's happening in the world, and just kind of have a moment together. I feel like I look forward to every moment they actually have together. Um, and by the way, just like that middle
Kenny,
cut
I don't know. Are you experiencing that?
reverb,
Yeah.
Hello, is this me?
I can hear it a little bit with
I
you.
can hear you adding there. Kevin, you were cutting out like crazy.
You guys.
Robert, can you hear me?
Right now.
Are we good?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep, I think we're good now.
Okay.
That was weird.
I was gonna say that
Sounds like
middle
Matrix.
that middle cutscene in the middle of that was the William Tell scene. I liked how it's Henry and Radzig walking in on it, and even that scene feels very like like Radzig is like he's above these guys, but he kind of has this like shake of the head, like kind of like boys will be boys kind of thing, like a like what a I guess I don't know. Like for me, it
So
was
we have
funny, but it was just interesting that Radzig was there to experience that with Henry, of
one.
all people. I don't know if Reverb's back. Sorry.
You're cut out.
I'm
Robert,
here.
there.
I guess our sound quality is not getting
Okay.
too.
You just goes I'm about to
I think it's you.
Come, DDoS. Gone if it was too much. We're being DDoSed.
Ralph. I think it's mainly you.
Robert, you're cutting it out too. Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, well, I've been speaking for about 90 minutes. I really enjoyed this conversation. We should do it again, maybe on a regular basis.
Yeah,
Pick
likewise.
games
Yeah.
regularly to play together and then talk about it afterwards.
Mhm.
You're cutting in and out. I don't know if it is me, but I'm watching your stream. I'm also watching the baseball game with no issues.
Okay.
But yeah, in the future we'll do this again. I'm gonna jump out if it is me who's cutting out because I can't contribute to the conversation any longer.
Okay,
You
Ralph.
guys have a
It's
great
been a
night, great
pleasure.
conversation.
Thanks for coming on. I can hear you good, Robert. By the way.
It might have been him. He might have had too many things because like I can hear you perfectly fine now. So,
Yeah. What was I saying?
Um,
I was just talking about like that William
I don't
Tell
know.
scene, the where Radzig walks up with Henry, and he kind of shakes his head at all like the shenanigans that's happening. I like that moment too, not because it was hilarious. It felt very it felt very like how the Saja, uh
Yeah,
like
yeah.
something out of that, but which is kind of an inside thing with us, but I just like that Radzik was, out of all people, was there to experience that, as because he's someone of such a higher class, and he's kind of just shaking his head as if he's just with a bunch of just with the guys. I don't know. You there, Robert? Well, I think Robert's cutting out. I don't know if maybe he's muted or something.
Um,
Oh, I can hear you now.
I don't
Am I still cutting out?
try to.
Hey. Well, we did talk long enough. I'm sorry that it ended on technical difficulties. Hey, are you there? Well, I guess I'll wrap it up. Just for our discussion's sake, because we went pretty long. Hello, Robert. Can you hear me?
Hey, Kev, can
Hey.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Man, I got kicked out. That's ridiculous.
Oh, you got kicked out of the match?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like no one's here. It's weird. We can wrap up if you want to. Is there any parting thoughts that you would want to add?
Well, I mean, I think the game was just a masterpiece.
Hmm.
I really think, you know, they did a really good job of just adding to and not taking away and not reinventing things. Like they capitalized on what worked,
Hmm.
refurbished and trimmed the fat, making things. I don't mind that they streamlined things, making things a little quote unquote easier. I think that was fine. I wasn't bothered by that too much.
Yeah, me neither.
Um, it made the game flow better, just initially. And you know what? If it brings more people into the game, then so be it. Because I want the game to succeed.
And it
And
really like the sales is really good, and apparently games made in like the UK or or across the pond,
mhm.
they the economy to make a game is a lot more easier. So the success they have is even more so over there for Warhorse Studios. Was it Warhorse or Deep Silver? I'm sorry, I get them confused.
Warhorse is
Is the
the studio
developer?
that made it.
Yes. So
Right.
when a third game comes out, which I'm sure there will be, maybe 5 years from now, they'll have the resources and the money and all that to do what they do. And I honestly, I hope this game gets a lot of accolades. I think it deserves it. I hope it like gets a lot of like media. I mean, it got a lot of great reviews by people. Uh, so you know, other than just the gamers, but it's good
Yeah.
success for them, I guess.
Yeah.
Well
I mean,
deserved.
when I play games like this, I sit here and go, man, what a great time to be alive and playing games. You know,
I
it's
can't
like,
imagine like because when I was a teen, like I mentioned this in our chat before. Like when I was a teenager and we had all the time in the world and we didn't have much any responsibilities really, other than school or whatever. Like this would have been a game I would have just like got lost in. Like the way games are now today, I just feel like I wouldn't have stood a chance. Like thankfully I was
there's
thankfully like I had the guidance to to be disciplined and do what I have to do in life. But yeah, games are definitely I would have been addicted and overwhelmed with how many great games there are now.
honestly, I think there's something nice. It's like you when you're like, yes, we talk about if we're younger and and in our teenage years, like we didn't have responsibilities, so we can binge and really just immerse ourselves in a game and no responsibilities. But I would also say, as an adult with responsibilities, and like me as a parent, like having a child to take care of and
Right.
feed and raise, and actually do the parenting thing.
Right, you gotta be present.
It's like your time. You gotta be present for that, and even like now that my time's even more limited, when I have it, I treasure it so much more. So like when I dedicate that time to playing a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it just feels so rewarding.
Definitely.
It's really that much, and yes, it may not, like I may not be able to play as much as I want to play, or like but it's like sometimes less is more, and I really just I feel even like if I get a couple of hours in a night, or like even an hour
It's like
before
light at the end of the
before
tunnel
having to
of
work,
like
or
all the grueling stuff you might not saying parenting is grueling, but I'm saying like like for me like when I was working, I but like it's just something you got to do. Like like I love my
yeah,
work, but like it's kind of like you in life you kind of have to choose the things you're willing to put up with in order to get by, and that's kind of what work is. And like I'm happy with that. I have a job that I'm not miserable at, but it's good to come home at the end of the day and have something that I can look forward to, like something like that. Like a game like this.
yeah, and it's a game that's not easily replaceable. I think that's the not the tragedy, but like it's like a bittersweet when the game like this ends, and you're like, man, what a great story. That was so good. It moved me, and like there's not many games that do that,
Hmm.
because not every game's equal, and unfortunately, more games that come out these days are just trash. So
Yeah,
it's nice. It's like a bittersweet thing that like a Diamonds in a Rough came up, but it's gonna be years until we see it again, and because like that again, that when that first one came out in 2018, that was like, man, that was historical in my mind. Where I was just, and then like, I mean, I played it a couple of times over and knew that a second one was on the rise, but like, it took was it 6 years? It took 6 years
pretty
for it to
much.
come
Yeah,
out.
pretty much. Yeah.
So it's like, man, to know that I may have to wait 6 more years for
We're gonna be in
this,
our
it's
40s.
like, wow. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah. Ralph, I think Ralph said it jokingly, but that's the truth. Like, I'll be 40,
Right.
so it's like, fuck. Like, I don't know, man. I try not to think about it too much, but it's just like, I
Hmm.
don't know. I feel emotionally invested in this game, so
Definitely.
it's special.
Like when I was playing through this, I felt like, wow, I'm playing something that is gonna. I feel like this is a game. This is a point in time that's very special, and I should enjoy it while it lasts because, yeah, like you said, games like this are, there are great games out there, but it's like when a masterpiece comes along, and especially it was great having to play this and talk to you and Ralph along the way and sharing the experience like that. That's that's very rare, and for us to have like experienced that together in a with a game like this, it's just like as I was playing it, I was like, wow, this is something that I feel like years from now they're going to be like people are going to be looking back at this game and pointing to this game as like this was this was one of the greats of like the medium in a way. There's lots, but you know what I mean. Like definitely felt that sense of like we're playing something very special here, not just for a game, but just for a story. Because for me, like I like to chase story, whether it's a great television show, a film, a book, or a video game. It's rare. It's not rare, but it's like. But when you finally grab hold of something that's actually like of substance like this, it's very special. Especially like as someone who just loves storytelling in general. But
Yeah. Well, the silver lining here is, this game was, I don't know if it was probably more successful than the first one, and even the first one was very successful. So it's like to hear that they're only just going up from here. Um, and like it's a small studio, so they're getting the funding, they're getting the success and
hmm
the good PR. So the silver lining to me is that, okay, if this game really broke ground for them and like really gave them the fame they needed, maybe they'll have the resources to release a game even sooner. Because a
true.
lot of small studios don't have the budget or the team or the resources to publish a game every couple of years or whatever. So like 6 years for them was their realistic timeline. So maybe it'll be a little less time.
Right. At the same time, I don't like if it has to take 6 years and for it to be as good as these first two are, then I'll gladly accept that. You know what I mean? Like I would rather a game take a little longer to make than to get it out at a quicker time just for the sake of it, and then risk stuff being rushed and maybe not as polished. But like you said, their their success may lend itself to them being able to have the overhead to get the game to complete to a certain point that's you know of quality. So in a shorter span. So
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see where the studio takes this storyline, and I'll be even more uh, saddened to when this series ends. You know,
hmm well, at least
this is
there's multiple
definitely not
playthroughs.
the last
A
time.
game
Yeah,
like this too. Like I like for me a game like this. I don't even care about I don't care about trophies. I got the trophies along the way, but like for me, that's the meta achievement of this game is not what the game is to me. It's a like every playthrough is going to be different, and you're just supposed to play it the way you want to play it. And there's so much. It's so expansive, and there's so many ways to go about every single thing that at least there's a replayability there. That even when the series is like all said and done, that you can still enjoy it for many years to come. I feel maybe discover things you never even knew about.
yeah. No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And we already said it before that this game gave you even more uh, ability to choose who you want him to be versus the first game. And the first game was pretty open,
Yeah.
but this game like really kind of was much more of a forge your own path as to who you are personality wise, not just gameplay wise.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see what they're gonna do next. And and for me, like personally, when I watch Henry as a character, I feel like we're growing with him. Like we're almost like not in the journey with him, so to speak, but it's
Right.
like you know, I don't know, like it's like that coming of age thing, you know, and it's like we're growing with him in a way,
Right,
and
it's resonant, you know.
yeah,
You can apply it to whatever you're
yeah,
going through in your own life. But
yeah,
but yeah, great game. It's gonna be tough to beat a game like that for for a while for me. There's great games I'm looking
right.
forward to, but it's just definitely one of a kind this game and franchise. But yeah, is there anything else we would like to add? We could wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I'm good. This was an awesome conversation, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. It was good to do it while it was still fresh in our heads, and all that. So, but yeah, we can always do this again some other time. It was good. It was good playing with you. Good talking to you. And yeah, I guess I'll just wrap it up. Anyone out there can like, comment, or subscribe to Kev Plays 9490, or follow me on Twitter at Let's Watch Series. Other than that, stay safe, stay healthy, keep a clear head, and keep on gaming. And I'll catch you all next time. Peace out. And